Power 97.5 Vegas, iHeartRadio, and iGlobal Media. I'm so excited about this moment because I just found out we got a lot in common. But if y'all are living under a rock, please tell us who you are and where are we right now?
Okay, I'm Marques L.A. Garrett. I live in Texas. I've been there for 3 years now. I'm a composer, conductor, educator, singer, researcher, clinician. I do a few things here and there, and enjoying my time here in Los Angeles, right outside of Walt Disney Concert Hall.
That part, right?
That part.
What I've loved about your career, and we're going to get a little bit into that, is I wanted this conversation to really just explore your artistry, your spirituality, but in addition to nature. And I think nature for me is one of the biggest, that a lot of people sometimes overlook, but also your Black creative expression and really the emotional impact of sound waves. I want to start with, as you said, we are sitting in Walt Disney Concert Hall here in LA, downtown LA. Sound waves invites audiences to really slow down. And that's something that I know I need a little moment to do myself. But slowing down and really just kind of reconnect with themselves through music inspired by water. My question is, and I'm really curious, in a world that often feels loud and overwhelming, and especially now, what do you believe music can provide that other forms of healing or reflection may not?
Well, that's an interesting question because while music is unique, it also has so many similarities to other arts expressions, and I'm grateful that everybody experiences art differently. And so while I may have an expectation or an experience, it doesn't mean that somebody else will or should. And just because we have differences doesn't mean that anybody is wrong. So I'm just grateful that music allows people at times to chill. Other times it does get us excited, which is a great thing. But it is nice that we can sit back and experience things that we've never experienced before, that we can feel new things, but also be comforted by the things that we find so familiar.
I mean, that part, right? And I think for me, I love to give people their flowers while they're still here. That's why I created this show, but also I love having these conversations because your world premiere, I love to say that, your world premiere on the seashore is really described as unfolding like waves that rise and ultimately build towards a huge and powerful climax, right? He was like, the words. There's some things over here. What emotion or kind of spiritual journey did you want listeners, or do you want listeners to kind of experience as they move through your amazing piece?
I'm so glad that you worded it that way because there have been many times in my career, even in my undergraduate time at Hampton, where I first, oh yeah, no, the real HU. Let's be very clear. But I remember my teacher, Roosevelt Dillard, teaching one of my pieces and saying, well, the composer was really trying to do this. And I was like, oh, I actually wasn't. And there have been so many times, either about my music or other people's music, where folks have said, well, the composer is trying to do this and composer is trying to do that. And my question is always, did you ask them? So I say that I'm not trying to create an experience for every listener because I don't know what things people are going through in their personal lives. Like, how are they feeling about the drive to the hall? Were they supposed to be at the concert with somebody else? I mean, like, you just never know what's going on. And people, again, they're so unique that I just want them to have whatever experience is real and is human for them. And so if they like the piece, yay. If they don't like the piece, oh well, I already got paid.
Listen, I love to get in a check. No, listen, but I think, and not only because I'm a Pisces, but because water is often associated with life and memory, renewal, and transformation. As you were composing on the seashore, what personal meaning did water kind of hold for you? And how did that symbolism kind of shape your creative kind of decisions?
I think back on my time in elementary school where Mrs. Ham, I was,
Don't we always
yeah,
remember their names?
I remember very few of my teachers before undergrad, and that's just because I have a bad memory. But I remember Mrs. Ham's class because she knew that I was always trying to get straight A's. And every subject I would have an A except for reading comprehension. I either had a B or an A minus or something like that.
She's never gonna give you just a straight A plus.
No, I mean, now I was reading too quickly. And because I was trying to compete with myself, I got to get it done. So in the fourth quarter, I finally got it. And so I was the one to get the award for most improved because of that. I mean, just that small change. But I mentioned that because I've never really been a person who looked deeply into like the meaning of something or trying to figure out what the artist was trying to convey. And some of that has to do with the reading comprehension. So I just never really dug into poetry. So I've been more of a literal person. So I just like to take those words, those lines and phrases as they are, and try to give them a little more literal musical expression. So I am jotting down little notes based on each line, sometimes different sections, but as you talked about water and giving life, I think back on the first friend trip that I had a few years ago, and we're tubing in Decorah, Iowa. Had an amazing, amazing time, and we now do it. We have a trip every year, not necessarily tube every year, but just floating on water. And we were having conversations about why I especially felt so great, why I am so taken by waterfalls, water fountains. Like those things get me in a way that I really can't describe, and I can just sit there and watch them. But it's so wonderful. So as I was writing this piece, I was just trying to do the literal thing, but also trying to say, okay, well, what sounds do you hear if you're just on the beach?
If you're just on the beach. I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. You know, this piece is set to an Indian poem, right? And for me, I took it as it's creating a beautiful intersection of cultures and languages and artistic traditions, right? What drew you to this text? And also, what conversations are you hoping to create through kind of the cultural connection of all the things?
Well, I didn't actually try to take any cultural references from India or from his background. I found the poem through some internet searching, and I actually was hoping to use it for a commission for a different ensemble, but that conductor didn't care for that poem, which is totally fine. And then I got this commission, and I said, "Oh, Grant, what do you think about this poem?" Because I was like, for some reason, I really want to set it. Yeah. And he had said that he had already done a piece by this poet, and he was like, "Yeah, I like it." So I really appreciated the dichotomy of the children and their innocence, not really understanding how how bad the world can be. When it talks about that they can take basically trash and make a boat out of it. And I mean, they're having fun. They're playing, not understanding that the water that they may or may not be able to swim in, don't know if yeah, I mean, don't know anything. Like that water can kill them. And I mean, there are lines in there that talk about dark things, and it talks about the restless water being boisterous and that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to swim maybe safely in boisterous water.
No, and I think, listen, I've loved interviewing CEOs and writers and artists and creatives. But for you, I think about as a phenomenal black composer, and you are, because I think of your work within this choral tradition. How do you view your role in really expanding what audiences expect choral music to sound like and whose stories it can actually tell?
Mm. Well, I haven't really thought much about that. I would say that I'm not trying to change the world when it comes to choral music. Definitely not. And I understand that every piece has a specific function. Some pieces that I write are just for that ensemble. Other pieces I hope have a life. And I don't know what this piece will end up doing or being. Like, this might be the only performance. Who knows? And if it is, such is life. Yet again, I got paid. But no, I love going on vacations. You know, you gotta have money. But yeah, the music exists. I hope that people like it. People sometimes will say about some of my songs that they were really drawn to it. It touched their heart, and I'm grateful for that. I love, honestly, when folks are like, I left rehearsal singing your song. I just can't get this out of my head. I'm like, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm really fine with that. So I mean, I want people to like the music. If they have a conversation, cool. There are so many different ways that musicians can view this musical art form, because some people will say that there is intention behind the key signature or the time signature or this chord going to that chord, and sometimes there really is. Other times it's just that sounded pretty in my head. And with one song, the thing that people love the most, it was actually a mistake. My finger went the wrong way on the piano. I was like, oh, I like that. And then I just went with that. But so you just never know. You just never know.
Well, and this is the thing about you, though. You're not only that, you're also a composer, and you're also an educator, and you're also a conductor. Dot, dot, dot. I mean, you've had so many and have so many jobs. He's getting all the checks, y'all. I'm just saying, he's getting all the checks. How has teaching young musicians really shaped the way you approach creativity and really leadership? And I love this piece, though, storytelling, through music.
I didn't know that I was going to love teaching. Originally, I didn't want to teach. I was so I was so tired of school when I finished my masters that I didn't even want to see university or college. Like, I didn't want to. But somebody sent me a message on Facebook, and next thing you know, I'm teaching in Pennsylvania. And the enthusiasm and the hunger and thirst that those students had for music, even though we didn't formally have a music major, we had a concentration, and there were some things that we had to navigate. And then my latter two jobs, I've had students that are music majors, music education more specifically, and even graduate students in conducting. And as time has gone on, that I've reevaluated how I choose music, how I conduct, how I teach. I started having conversations with my students, and even in the dress rehearsal with the Master Chorale, I talked about how you've got descriptors, and oftentimes I've found that conductors or singers, just thinking about vocal music right now since we got the words, they'll sing the word a particular way. So in the case of this piece, there's the word smile. And you could tell that there was a joyful or just a smiling moment for them. But I shared with them that even though the word the is an article, and it can mean so many other things, remember that word is attached to the word smile. So if you're going to sing smile one way, maybe you need to sing the same way. So it's, I mean, those kinds of conversations that I'll have with my students. And I understand the privilege of being able to have students that you give them some music and they're just singing it right away. And others take more time because they're at a different place in their musical journey. Or some people may be dissecting it differently. Absolutely. Right? It takes a little bit longer to yeah understand the concept of what you're trying to get. Or it's just they haven't figured out bum bum bum. They got to get that first before they can start figuring out the happy and sad. I mean, that's just my That's the way I tend to approach the music. But yeah,
Well, and I think many of us, as we get ready to wrap this, many of us are looking and searching for moments of peace. And especially in a lot of uncertain times that we're all living in, what do you hope someone carries with them emotionally after hearing On the Seashore and experiencing sound waves as a whole?
specifically with my piece, there are calm moments and more agitated or just rhythmic moments. And you'll experience it. It's like, ah, oh, ah. I mean, it just keeps going that way. But toward the end, it does calm down. And I intentionally did not end it on a major chord. I left it rather open to kind of turn it into a question to basically say, what responsibility do we as adults who are, for all intents and purposes, the ones who are causing the problems, also causing the good things, but in the case of this poem, causing the bad things that affect the children, what are we going to do? How are we going to change things? How are we going to approach those difficult or sometimes difficult conversations with people who may disagree with us on a variety of things to make sure that we are not just thinking about ourselves, but truly thinking about, and this sounds very cliche, the next generation. But we just want to make sure that there is something for them.
I mean, what I love about all the interviews that I have done is that you guys just throw this alley oop to like the next question, and it's so simple. When you think of the future generations, looking back at your body of work, what do you hope that they understand about values and humanity and cultural legacy? And especially for the things that you are trying to kind of leave behind within your music.
I hope that people do some work when the time is available to them to investigate, to figure out if there is something that a composer was trying to express. Because there have been some pieces of mine that I've used Negro spirituals. However, instead of doing a traditional concert arrangement, I essentially hide it in a Latin setting and kind of creating musical, yeah, yeah, and creating musical puzzles for the singers and the conductors to figure out, not necessarily audience, because they experience it once and there's really no way that they're going to know a spiritual when it's in reverse and in Latin. So I do hope that when people have the time that they can investigate things a little bit more, l- make sure that while we're trying to do new things and keep going forward, not forgetting the past, because I know that I would not be where I am if it were not for so many people, educators, singers, pastors, choir directors, I mean pianists, organists, other composers, but also administrators who have been in my corner. Obviously, my students at different places, the other students who are not technically mine, but that I get to work with, like they're. I've been able to do so much because of other people, and I'm like I said, I'm grateful for them. So just making sure that we take time to look back, to figure out the things that we can learn from those that came before us, and figure out what the next thing is.
Marcus Garrett, thank you. Have an amazing performance tonight, as you clearly already are, because you already got paid. So, all the things. But Sound Waves tonight, I'm so excited. I'm going to be in attendance, and thank you. I appreciate you.